Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. Lu Zhou's eyes were as bright as flames as he looked at everyone gathered there and said, since the golden lotus is taking life away, all we have to do is to cut it off. Lang Luo, Pan Litian, Jiang Aijian, and Ming Shirin looked as though they had been struck by a bolt of lightning. This statement stirred up waves in their hearts. Lang Luo and Pan Litian, who had close to a millennium worth of experiences, and the young Jiang Aijian and Ming Shirin were equally stunned at this moment. Jiang Aijian gulped. Wait up. Let me breathe. He raised a hand and rubbed his chest before saying, Old senior, if the gold lotus is severed, we'd suffer great damage. We won't be in peak condition. How are we supposed to attain the 9-leaf stage? The four of them had forgotten about the differences in their age. This was also a question that the other three wanted to know the answer to. Lu Zhou smiled warmly and said, Isn't there a way to sever the golden lotus without being affected? The four of them were stunned. From the current situation, Lu Zhou was of the opinion that there were two ways to enter the 9-leaf stage. The first way was to fulfill the requirement of the 8-leaf golden lotus and enter the 9-leaf stage conventionally. This method was very difficult because nobody knew how many years of life the golden lotus would absorb. It was possible for it to absorb 1,000 or even 2,000 years. This was also the reason why Lu Zhou stocked up on reversal cards. The second way was to sever the golden lotus. Lu Zhou's tone was calm as he said, Have you ever thought about it? A cultivation method whereby the golden lotus is severed? The four of them gulped. Such a cultivation method was unheard of. However, who could say that it was impossible when nobody had studied it before? A 9-leaf stage without the golden lotus. That can only be regarded as a quasi-9-leaf stage, at most, Jiang Aijian said. Even without the golden lotus, it's still a realm higher. It's enough for your opponent to crush you with the difference in your levels and his avatar. From what we know now, the height of a 9-leaf avatar would be at least 150 feet, Ming Shirin said. Lang Luo and Pan Litian nodded. The two of them sighed. Pan Litian said with a sigh, I'm old. My mind isn't as sharp as you youngsters. After saying this, Jiang Aijian and Ming Shirin looked at Lu Zhou in unison. Pan Litian's old face blushed. He felt slightly embarrassed. If I'm old, what would that make the pavilion master? This was awkward. In any case, their discussion today was sure to change their previous cultivation methods. Lang Luo and Pan Litian bowed at the same time. It's better to listen to you than read the books for 100 years. Ming Shirin and Jiang Aijian were speechless. Lu Zhou stroked his beard in satisfaction as he nodded and said, They're merely thoughts. If you're trying it out, proceed with extreme caution. The four of them bowed deeply. They knew that they were not supposed to attain the 9-leaf stage by severing their golden lotuses unless they had a perfect plan or had no other choice. That method was too shocking. Naturally, Lu Zhou was merely providing them with a new way to think about this. After all, who would actually be willing to do that to themselves? Lu Zhou had the reversal cards. So long as he had enough of them, he could try to attempt it when he was at the 8-leaf stage. However, it was unclear if there were any other undiscovered effects by practicing this method. Meanwhile, at the exit of the Mausoleum of Swords, a person with messy hair, grimy face, and dressed in rags who emitted a peculiar aura crawled out. He took step after step, hauling a thick rope over his shoulder, out of the Mausoleum of Swords. At the other end of the rope, a completely withered corpse was being brought out. The corpse was covered in old, tattered monk robes. The person continued walking. In the next second, he appeared several hundred feet away. The grime covered his entire body, and the peculiar aura seemed to cling to him like a black mist. Wherever he passed, the plants would wither. He slowed to a stop only when he was out of the Mausoleum of Swords. Several Brahmin C8 Meridians cultivators flew over from the distance. When they landed, they bowed simultaneously. Greetings, Sect Master. Sect Master, what happened? The remaining disciples were shocked when they saw Zhang Yuanshan's appearance. It was true that the righteous sect had been reduced to fleeing for their lives on a daily basis, but surely there was no need to go so far as to look like this? At the very least, he still had a few loyal disciples following him. Zhang Yuanshan lifted his head slowly. When he opened his eyes, they flashed coldly. He raised his right hand. Purple tendrils emerged from his hand, the tendrils connected to the palm seals as they scattered in all directions. Sect Master. The disciples could not react in time. Their necks were clenched by the peculiar palm seals. They were lifted up into the air, their feet leaving the ground. They regarded Zhang Yuanshan, their sect master, with fear in their eyes. They were all in a state of confusion. As time passed, they found it more and more difficult to breathe. The palm seals seemed to be tightening their grips. Shortly after, they breathed more rapidly. Sect Master. No, don't. Unfortunately, Zhang Yuanshan's face was devoid of emotion, and his eyes were cold. The disciples were lifted higher into the air by the tendrils of energy. The auras from the disciples slowly flowed into Zhang Yuanshan's body. Finally, Zhang Yuanshan opened his chapped lips and uttered a single word, good. Crack. 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 The palm seals suddenly clenched even harder. The disciples' necks snapped, and they no longer breathed. The life energy from their bodies was harvested by the tendrils of energy. The disciples' bodies began to wither and grew more hideous by the second. After the tendrils of energies were withdrawn, the withered corpses fell to the ground. At this moment, a deep voice rang in Zhang Yuanshan's ears, "Don't waste time on these boring targets." Zhang Yuanshan lowered his head and nodded. All right. He held onto the rope and continued forward with the corpse in tow. He vanished among the trees in just a blink of an eye. After an unknown period of time, Zhang Yuanshan arrived at the side of a lake, still with the corpse behind him. He stopped as he gazed into the distance. He mumbled, "Golden Court. Mountain." The commanding voice rang in Zhang Yuanshan's ears again. "Continue on your way. Golden Court Mountain isn't your target." All right. Zhang Yuanshan pulled on the corpse and continued on his way. Strangely, the path he walked on was all the withered places. It seemed they were not random and were connected in a line. He eventually vanished at the end of the lake. Meanwhile, in the air above the forest around the lake, a white-clad figure looked in the direction where Zhang Yuanshan had disappeared and murmured, "A puppet?" Yi Tianxin looked at the surface of the lake before shifting her eyes to the direction of the Golden Court Mountain. A hint of hesitation could be seen on her face. The next day, gray clouds gathered in the skies. It was a gloomy day. The green jade altar was quiet and peaceful. A person stood at the center of the green jade altar. His eyes were closed. His hands were placed on the hilt of the sword before himself. "Mr. Second, you shouldn't wait any longer. The righteous sect's territories belong to the Nether Sect for a long time now. Zhang Yuanshan is also known for his cowardice. There's no way that he'll show up," a Nether Sect disciple said with a bow. Yu Shangrong did not open his eyes. He smiled faintly and said, "There's no rush." Thank you for the kind suggestion," Yu Shangrong said politely. At this moment, black patches began to appear among the huge trees several miles from the green jade altar. "Mr. Second, it looks like it's going to rain. The sect master has asked me to make sure that you have a comfortable stay here." The disciples suddenly felt that the legendary sword devil was rather approachable. He decided that he should try to get on Yu Shangrong's good books. Who knew if they might even end up being friends? How proud would he feel being friends with the sword devil? The cultivation world would envy him. All of a sudden, Yu Shangrong said, "Stand back." He did not look at the disciple. A sudden blast of energy suddenly shot out. Huh? Bam. The Nether Sect's disciple was sent flying out of the green jade altar. As he was sent flying back, he finally realized his sect master was right. Mr. Second was truly a terrifying person with a kindly appearance. Meanwhile, Yu Shangrong looked at the forest in front of him. His longevity sword vibrated slightly in his hand. He was neither worried nor afraid. Instead, a faint smile could be seen on his face. A strong opponent? The longevity sword vibrated again. It was as though it had a tacit agreement with its owner. This is interesting. Yu Shangrong, naturally, liked a challenge. He would like to face a strong opponent. After crossing so many names off the list, he was getting slightly bored. Many of the so-called elites were so weak. The emergence of a peculiar energy wave before him had piqued his interest. The trees slowly withered as their leaves fell. At this moment, Yu Shangrong finally saw Zhang Yuanshan with his messy hair and dirty face as he pulled on a rope. He moved closer. In an instant, he had arrived near Yu Shangrong. It took him but a few breaths to reach below the green jade altar from the forest. This scene was peculiar. Imagine seeing a monster who was covered in a layer of grime while it pulled on a corpse. Yu Shangrong frowned slightly. At this moment, the person who dragged the corpse looked up. He said haltingly, "Yu Shangrong. We finally meet." A hint of energy was laced in his words. Zhang Yuanshan? Yu Shangrong did not expect Zhang Yuanshan to turn out like this. He found it strange. You want to kill me. Anyone whose name is on this list will be killed by my sword. Yu Shangrong was not intimidated by Zhang Yuanshan's appearance. He maintained a nonchalant attitude. All right. Zhang Yuanshan spat the word out with great difficulties. His eyeballs were rolling. After that, he stood motionlessly as though he was preparing for something. Yu Shangrong sensed the peculiar wave of energies from Zhang Yuanshan. He smiled faintly and said, "Interesting." He raised the longevity sword with his right hand and flicked with his thumb. Zing. The longevity sword left its scabbard. Its sword left no trace in its wake. Several energy blades formed before Yu Shangrong. They circled around the longevity sword and dropped. He was merely testing the water. The sword skill was not at all powerful.